And here we are in beautiful downtown Modi'in, affectionately known as Motown. Combined, that's me, Hanoch Young, combined with my dear friend, buddy, mentor, etc., 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 Mike Clayton in scenic Franklin, North Carolina. Well, bless your hearts, everybody. And here we are.
Yeah,
hey, Mike.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon. Yeah, we're spent a little time in a town this past weekend that is dear to you. It may be possibly the reason why you have this attraction to the South is because your parents had a brief time in Savannah, Georgia, didn't they?
That's right. And that was back in the era when people thought it was really bad form to patronize a store run by New York Jews.
Yeah.
What that did is it caused, of course, the business to fail. My parents moved back to New York, and hence I was born in Nueva York, as opposed to Savannah, Georgia. Oh, bless your hearts. Yeah, that would be a really interesting experience.
Yeah, so the possibility that at least the twinkle in your dad's eye began in Savannah is the reason for your endearment to the Southern Kingdom of America, that is.
Well, yeah, let's leave it at that. Show enough.
All right. Hey, before we get back to a little bit of touring here, what's going on with the continued political situation there?
Okay. This is the period of negotiation and threats. And okay, but the best way to think about it is picture you're watching a championship chess match. And after each and every single move, all the commentators tell you, oh, the pawn was just moved to there. That must mean, or that could mean, or that may mean, or that should mean. So it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. So right now, it's too early to say anything about anything. It appears that Netanyahu this guy, he's trying to get the law changed for direct vote in the Knesset to elect the prime minister. Now, even if he can get 61, or in addition to him, 60 people agreeing to that nonsense, the High Court is going to strike it down because a provisional, conditional transition government can't change the laws. Ta-da! But who am I to say that? So that's that. What's the big news?
By the way, did you see that on our side, the Kamala yesterday is trying to make Biden look better in some ways, in that it wasn't going up Air Force One steps, but stepping off onto a podium. She tripped and almost landed on her keister.
Said making Biden look better. I was under the impression the only thing that could make Biden look better would be a mortician, but
but we digress again, right?
Yeah, okay. And I don't want to get involved in American stuff.
No, not at all.
What's the big news here? Well, the big news is, as of this past Sunday, we no longer have to wear a mask outside. There are no more masks outside. They still want you to wear them inside, like in malls, in stores, in medical clinics. But that's a big deal. That's, Israel was one of the first countries in the world to clamp down on stuff. And now this is a real sign, hopefully, of a real step towards the future, in the post-COVID era, to be determined. What else is the big news? The weather. There's a thing called a sharav. Sharav is an Arabic term. It's a dry heat. It hit on Sunday, Monday. The temperatures here in Modi'in were 108.
Oh,
And Modine is not the hottest part of the country.
no.
Today, it's back down in the mid 70s. Gorgeous weather. You'd think you were in Franklin, North Carolina in the springtime. It is that nice.
Wow. Well, we're only getting the 50s today, so it's going to be a little on the chilly side. What was the temperature down in in the Dead Sea? Did you happen to notice? I mean, it must have been
I didn't look, but what's interesting is I remembered 2 years ago, which would have been May 2019. I'm one of those people who've, basically have lost a year of their lives.
Yeah.
Like all of us, it's kind of like, was it last year? Was it 2 years ago? Was it 10 years ago? When was it?
Yeah.
Anyway, May 2019, I'm guiding for Tourist Israel. So I'm guiding day tourists, mostly Europeans, down at the Dead Sea. It was in May, same time of year. Actually, no, this is in April, excuse me, but it was in May. And we had a heat wave of several days. It hit 114 degrees. Now, understand something. These Europeans who came here for 3 days because they got a cheap airline ticket are young. They are in Tel Aviv, and they're out all night drinking and partying.
Oh.
They were dropping like flies on Masada. It was, and then and what's interesting is out of all the 7 Connect to Israel tours that you and I have done, Mike, people seem to like me until they realize quickly on that you are by far the nicer one of the two of us. And then they get a little nervous.
Which is
so
scary.
when I made it clear to the Europeans that we take no prisoners and we shoot the wounded, they kind of listened to me and started drinking water. So but the weather is gorgeous now, absolutely beautiful. I do kind of miss wearing my camouflage bandana. I do, honestly.
Yeah, I know. You're the only one that I know that would miss wearing a mask. Okay, wreak havoc. Yeah. See.
Yeah. So it's you have to get across the message subtly. Anyway, I think we should continue our travels.
Yeah, back on the bus. Meow,
If I remember from 2 weeks ago, after we were all rolling on the floor laughing, taking pictures of Christy up on the camel. By the way, I don't know if you've gotten beaten for that remark yet, but
well, actually, there was an ongoing thing going with one of the daughters that told me there's no way that I was going to be able to get her mom on the camel. And I said, yes, I can. I have ways. And so we went back and forth on that. But I saw her a couple of Shabbats ago, and she said, so you're going to pay for me to get on the camel? I said, yes. And she is like, okay. So, bet's over. I'll be eating
done deal.
I'll be eating a little watermelon glita and watching Christy get on and off the camel. That'll be, something like that is something you live for.
Certainly something that will live on forever in the minds of her children, for sure.
Yes, and on Facebook.
Anyway.
And on Facebook. Okay. So as we get back on the bus, we're going to pass a couple of very interesting places. We have, we talked about Jericho, but we're going along the Jordon River Valley, which is named because this is the Jordan River. On the other side,
it's the valley.
Yeah, on the other side of the river is occupied territory, otherwise known as Transjordan. And we might get into some of the political things there in just a moment. But I think there's some very interesting places that, not that we go there because there's still some minefields in the area, but there's some interesting places that we will pass, which one of them being the route that the Hebrews came across from from the eastern bank, or that'd be the eastern bank.
Correct.
So across the Jordan right there, the Ardennes. We would go on up to and see the sign for the town called Adam, which is where the water backed up to. And it's amazing when you think about it, just how far north that was, that
Yes.
water backing up in that day. And we are in an area there of a valley spoken of in Hosea. And I just can't remember the name of the valley. I will give you the Valley of Achor. Yeah, there you go. Finally came out. I will give you the Valley of Achor as a way of deliverance. And the word there is kind of a swampy, marshy, troubly kind of area. Troubly, is that a word? It is now.
It is, yeah.
You
For
know,
us, it is.
It's not going to be an easy walk through there, but it's going to be the walk that we need. And so
Right.
a lot going on there in that message. So take us from that point.
Okay. Well, as we continue up, you know, on your right, you have now the Jordon River Valley, in Hebrew, Shevel Suri Afrikai, the Syrian African Rift. For those of our listeners who are into the tectonic plates and the movement of the Earth's crust and all that stuff, man, you're going to love this stuff. We're not going to talk about it, but you'll love it. Just go look it up on Google. That is a rift valley running from the end of Africa all the way up, way north of Israel.
Now, they do say that there's recorded a earthquake in that area. How often?
Every 100 years.
And the last one was?
More than 120 years ago. However, yes, however, I've inquired. There will be no, seriously, I mean, you know, we're able to do that kind of thing here in Israel. This is Modi'in, come on, the home of the Maccabees. There will not be an earthquake during the course of the next Connect to Israel tour, which is October 31st through November 11th. So you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
If you hang around on November the 12th, I cannot promise anything. Right. But okay. As we go up, now one of the interesting sites on our right side is a place called Keser al-Yahud. Keser al-Yahud is one of the, or thought to be the, baptismal site of Yochanan HaMatbil, John the Immerser.
Yes.
I hate using the term baptismal site because Yochanan, John, never baptized anybody. You understand something? We, the Jewish side of the family, when we immerse in a mikveh, we do it ourselves. We don't do the Baptist style waterboarding where you grab someone and you hold them underwater. By the way, I was going on and on about the Baptists doing this, the Baptists doing that. I was in the state of Washington. I didn't realize that the congregation that was hosting me was doing it in a Baptist church, and the pastor was there. He said he found my depiction of, you know, describing their baptism as waterboarding was one of the funniest things he's ever heard.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed.
Now we will probably talk about later on that we offer on the tour a mikveh.
Yes.
I don't do a baptism, and
no.
I figured out the whole process of a mikveh many years ago, as I was standing in the Jordon River or creek, as we would call it here. I was standing there. It was February, and I had like 40 people that wanted to do a baptism, and I'm losing feeling in my legs. And I thought, you know, I don't think Yochanan was doing this. So I went to the more of a traditional mikveh, and it's amazing. You know, one of these things that we try to talk about is when you, this kind of off the subject, but we've never been known to do that.
First time we've ever done that.
I know. You know, it's amazing when you present something of truth to someone and then they continue to follow in their tradition. And I mean, I've taught this numerous places. I was at the Jordon site up north, and I had a lady, Orthodox lady. I have no idea why she was there, but she came over and started talking to me in Hebrew, called me rabbi. Yeah, and I had no idea what she was talking about. And I said, you know, what? She said, how did you know these things? You just did a mikvah from 2,000 years ago. But you can explain something to someone and they'll still continue in their traditions while pointing fingers at the Jewish side for continuing tradition. That, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's, you know, we collectively have a compulsion to need to remake God in our own image.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're most comfortable with.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's keep heading north.
Yes.
So we're going north now. Again, the Jordan Valley, you'll see date palm trees. You'll see all kinds of fields being cultivated, all kinds of great stuff happening. And it's hot there. And what was funny was when I realized that we had it on our schedule to be discussing Beit She'an today, that 108 degrees in Modi'in was just kind of like, seriously, you know, do I really need to be, you know, reminded of this?
Yeah.
We come up to the city of Beit She'an. Beit She'an, most people would pronounce it. Now, Beit She'an is very interesting for those interested in Hellenism, the Roman Empire, and history in general. Because you have a site, now most history books will tell you that the city of Beit She'an has been settled fully for 6,000 plus years. Now, right now, I know that a few heads are blowing up. I didn't say that. Let's just say comfortably between us, it's been settled for as long as anyone can remember and recorded history.
Okay. Yeah, that's
okay. Now, I took some notes here because I actually haven't been there in 2 years.
Yeah, since we were there last time having a Glida.
Yeah. The thing that's fascinating is it's a huge area. It's about 390 acres. And it was a full-blown city. Canaanite, Egyptian. The Egyptians occupied much of Israel for a long period of time. You have Israelite, you have Philistine, and Roman. Very, and they have, it's what's fascinating, let me get the date right. In the year 749, that's in the Common Era, there was a massive earthquake. That whole area was covered with dirt and ash. It was fabulous. Why? It protected it all.
Yeah.
Once they remembered that it was there and dug it out, you see some of the most preserved pieces of architecture, ranging from temples. There's a fabulous Roman amphitheater where the acoustics are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping the next time the guitarist along with us that I can do my rendition of Simple Man, you know, without a mic. You know, I really wish you wouldn't laugh when I'm saying these. I'm revealing some of my, you know, people want to know, like, what's Hanoch really like? That's a very scary thought. So let's not go there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what you're doing is giving an insight into my life of knowing you, which is scary thought. You know, Beit She'an is an interesting place. To consider that in the, I think it was 1980s, there was an economic downturn. And so for the improvement, it was an infrastructure plan. Wow, imagine that. The government funded this of going in, they knew where it was, so they began to dig. And they literally uncovered this with removing 30 feet, in some areas, 30 feet of dust, rubble, I mean, everything, this ash, everything. And it's perfectly preserved. I mean, these columns, they're right there where they were,
It's the city contains 20 levels of civilization.
Mm-hmm.
During the Roman period, it's thought that there were between 30 and 40,000 inhabitants, which is huge for this part of the world. And it was a major city at the time of my ancestors, David HaMelech and Shlomo HaMelech, King David and King Solomon. I mean, this is really, now also, someone's going to say, well, doesn't the Bible say? Yes, they do. That is the place where Shaul HaMelech, King Saul, was tacked up against the wall.
Yes.
Don't worry, we've taken the body down a couple of thousand years ago. And what's fascinating is Beit She'an was one of Israel's quote unquote development cities.
Mm-hmm.
That was settled primarily by Jews from the North African region, Mizrahi Jews, Eastern Jews. And sadly, as in, to the best of my knowledge, all of our development towns of the 50s and 60s never developed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a sleepy town,
yeah.
In that sense. But it is fascinating that you get to see full-blown pagan ruins.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the streets are not pagan. Don't worry, you can walk on the streets. You don't have to, you don't have to sacrifice a pig. You're fine. But what's interesting, and I know we have some historians who listen to this, I mentioned there was a Roman amphitheater. There are a few in Israel, in Caesarea, Caesarea, etc. There are no existing remnants of Greek amphitheaters in Israel. Question is why? Well, as in most cases, we really don't know, but that's okay because I'll make up an answer. No, it's thought to be either what was left of it, the Romans destroyed and built their own thing. It's basically, when Fred Flintstone leaves and someone else comes, they use those stones and they do, what they want with it
mm-hmm.
for their signature.
So yeah, and eventually you get the high rise that the Jetsons were in, and that's called a tell. And there is an active tell there. You like that, huh?
Yeah, meet George Jetson.
Yeah, so he's just living on top of the ruins of Fred Flintstone. A tell, and we see this word Tel Aviv. A tell is basically a hill that is man-made. Tel Megiddo, probably one of the most historic, famous tells in Israel, is Megiddo, or Tel Megiddo is basically one civilization built on top of another civilization. So to be able to go down, level after level after level would be fascinating. To try to figure out what all happened in those would be very difficult, and you'd have to tear the whole thing apart. So it's with archaeologists, it's like, how much do you tear apart? What do you do? It's an ongoing thing in Israel. Beit She'an has what we will refer to as the Cardo. This is one of the Decapolis cities, one of the Roman cities, and Jerusalem has a very famous place called the Cardo, and it's the word we get for the cardio system of our body. It's the main. It's basically Main Street, and so
the main artery. Yes,
the main artery, and you can go down the Cardo. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're always going north and south.
North south.
Yeah, north south.
the east-west is called the Decumanos.
Okay, easier for you to say because you weren't actually born in Savannah. But so the walking on that Cardo Main Street, you're actually walking in, and the stones are there, but the tracks from the chariots of that day would have, made ruts. And the preservation of this town, you can still see you're walking in the ruts. It's fascinating.
Yeah, the fact that it was fully covered and protected, quote unquote, for 1,300 years really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
There aren't many places like this in the entire world.
Wow. But for us, okay, there's another aspect of this. There's an area that was known for the lions, feeding the having someone there that's sentenced to death and, opening the lions on them. There's also was a lot of the gladiator kind of things, fighting to the death. And there was a rabbinic ruling of should Jews go to those gladiator fights. Give us a little bit about that.
Wow. I remember it vaguely.
Okay.
Well, I don't remember. I don't remember ultimately, it just,
I kind of threw that one at you there, and I know you haven't been guiding in a while, but the story was told to me that there was a big discussion of whether Jews should actively go there, attend those, watch these things. But at one point in time, toward the end of it, as one of the contestants had gained a victory over the other contestant, it was like, okay, now do we kill them? But they would look up into the people in the stands around them, in the bleachers, I guess you'd call it, around them, and you could give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. One of them meaning kill this person, the other one no, let them free.
Let live.
And it was let them live. And it was deemed that a Jew could go there and actually watch this in order to give the thumbs up, I think it was in the end. Therefore saving a life. And from there we get this, this is the statement of Torah that life is the greatest commandment. This is the greatest mitzvah, is saving life. So that's the little nutshell there of what we see as we drive.
Sounds logical.
Yeah. So this was what was given to me at one of our tours back with my older guide, not my young guide.
Man, that joke's getting old too, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, because the young is getting older.
Just better.
Oh, okay. So anything else there? We need to probably let's talk briefly about the Kinneret, because we're it's going to take us. This is like the old days. It's going to take us a whole week to make the bus ride from from Beit Shean all the way up to the Kinneret, the Galilee, and it's almost like Christy's taking the camel.
Oh man. Okay.
I might be paying.
Not going there.
I know.
Next week, I'd like to get to Tiberias, and the Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee. So much to talk about. But just mentioning something for those who've been in Israel over the years, the level of the Kinneret is almost totally full.
Wow.
We with all the craziness in the world, and with all the fact that so much of regular life has gone topsy-turvy, to think that we worried for so many years about the level of the Kinneret. And then what they would do is, they would say, we can't go below this level. And then there would be a drought, and they'd push that line down and say, no, this is really the level that we can't. No, this is what we really meant. This is the red line. No, this is the real red line. This is the double red line. So that's really, it's amazing. Internal tourism in Israel is gradually coming back. I say internal, this is Israelis.
Yeah.
And hopefully when we can get, and by the way, just a form of clarification regarding our government. People shouldn't think that Israel doesn't have a government. We do. It's the same guys that are staying in a caretaker position until they are replaced. So in other words, you've got the same Minister of Defense, Benny Gantz, you got Netanyahu, King Bibi the First, he's still there, et cetera, et cetera.
Your wording there is very appropriate. That we would have a government. You would have a government that is in kind of a caretaker position. That sounds a lot like the White House. Just say.
Oh, I try to stay up on world news, not just news here in Israel. It's like, when people talk about incoming tourism, you have to look at, right now, countries like Brazil, India, France are having tremendous, awful, COVID outbreaks. So, it's not like we in Israel can simply make a decision based on our situation. So, all of this is going on. So I try to follow what's going on in America.
Yeah. Well, you go
really
right
hard.
You go right ahead and do that. Okay. Well, hey.
Do we have time?
Yeah.
Do we have 3 minutes?
You have a special surprise for me, which I'm really that sends chills.
Okay. Years ago, back in when I was a mere lad, studying with Rav Kahana, Beitar Jewish Defense League, I used to have a file called the Jewish Sickness File. And I would put in newspaper clippings of all these bizarre things that Jews around the world were doing and saying, really like self-hating, stupid stuff. So I thought it might be helpful because people say, you're always so critical of us, from the Ephraimite side of the family. So I thought if we did a little feature every week where I pointed out something incredibly stupid going on the Jewish side, vis-a-vis Israel, only vis-a-vis Israel. Okay, we have a new ambassador, Israeli ambassador to England, to United Kingdom. Her name is Tzipi Hatoveli. Tzipi Hatoveli is a member of the Likud. She's a really, really good person. She's Dati Leumi, she's national religious, and she's a strong supporter of the development of Judea and Samaria. Sounds like our kind of person.
Yeah.
Right, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's having a Zoom meeting with all the Zionist youth movements, all the Jewish youth movements in the UK. Well, the Masorti movement, the so-called conservative movement, that's what the conservative movement, what the American conservative Jewish movement is called in England, Masorti, traditional. They have decided they are boycotting it because they don't agree with her personal political or religious views.
Okay.
So the reason I don't speak a lot about encouraging Jews to like get with the program and support Israel and stuff is because I have largely given up on them. There was an article in the Jerusalem Post a week ago by Michael Freund, who started the organization Shavei Israel, who reaches out to descendants of Jews and lost tribers around the world. He's done a wonderful job, the B'nai Menashe of India, bringing them to Israel, all great stuff. He asked the question, he says, why don't American rabbis speak about Aliyah? Why? He said, as a kid, he went to more sports events at Shea Stadium and in Madison Square Garden, that at those events, there were more Jews than come on Aliyah every year from America. The number is under 4,000, by the way. But you know what? Maybe we should do a special sometime where we could just pick on Jews. Pick on Jews for an entire hour. Anyway, I've got a low battery.
Yes, you do.
Don't you remember that? Was it the Kinks that had a song? I'm on a low budget, something like that. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of a name for our new segment, like Stupid Jew Tricks.
I'll work on a name. I'll work on it. Right. He said politely. Mike, you have a great week and a Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, you too.
And we'll see you same bat time, same bat channel next week. And we'll go up to the Kinneret. Maybe even go for a swim.
No. Yeah, hey, sounds like a good idea. All right, see ya.
All right, man. Take care, Mike.